Hello and welcome to the June part 2 of the Wise Guy Sports Show, this time on the Big Recon Sports YouTube channel as we move to Restream. No more StreamYard. Jim talked me into it. Browbeat me is more like it, but hey, here we are. As always, I am one of the hosts of the Wise Guy Show. I am the Big Recon on Sports, Mike Martinez, and Jim, JC Blue Note. It's Stanley Cup Finals time. It's June when the pretenders in Major League Baseball fall by the wayside, and apparently the entire league, both leagues run through New York. And we may finally have an end to the saga that is Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. So we have a lot to talk about tonight, including what I was going to save for the end. But let's lead the show off with it. Let's lead off with the happiness. And you have no idea where I'm going with this, do you?
No, but I'm hoping you and I, because you and I were on the very same wavelength when we talked on the phone earlier this week.
Yes, that's very true, but I don't think I'm going there because I don't remember what we talked about. Dad brain is a real thing, my friend. It's a real thing.
Yeah, my dad likes to call it CRS. Can't remember squat.
I got you. Now, the other thing, too, is there will not be a Big Recon episode next week or the week after for one very simple reason. Next Friday, Zachary graduates high school, and the weekend after – thank you. And the weekend after is – I have 2 out of high school and 1 still in diapers.
Yep.
There's something wrong with me. No, I'm kidding. And then the weekend after is his graduation party, which will be down here, and it will be with the Hispanic side of my family, so it's going to be a banger.
Let's also keep in mind that next week, that the weekend after is also 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, but that's a big baseball weekend, so I was going to do a show, but then we had my cousin's son who's going away to school next year. Zachary's going local. He's doing you and I did. He's starting at community college. And, yeah, he's going away. He's got a program he's going to starting the weekend after that, so we had to have it that weekend. But I plan on doing a July 4th episode, a big baseball one, but now we're going to push that back to the following weekend.
Yeah, so we got Mayfield home days next week, so I figure my mom and I are going to go over to the park and watch them, set off fireworks. And
I miss home days.
That's real. That's the only reason we go anymore. It's just because in Mayfield they tore down everything about 2 weeks ago. Like they tore down the community center, both the baseball fields. They're like redoing the whole thing. They're putting the water park over there now. Right there on my side street. I've got no place to take my recycling for the next 2 months while they figure out what to do. But it's, I would imagine they're going to blow stuff off there because they want to do it then. So this way they don't have to do it on 4th of July week. And trust me, I'm not going anywhere 4th of July week.
No, and neither.
That's a 3-day weekend, dude.
Oh, amen. Mine's actually 4. I'm off on the 1st.
Oh, you suck.
Well, I got all the running to do for the party, dude.
Yeah, that's true. You get a pass.
Thank you. Well, anyways, we're going to start with some happiness. Because it was 6 years ago tomorrow to the day. I told you to wear this.
I just did laundry.
Okay.
Literally an hour ago. What do you think I'm wearing a button up?
I thought you were wearing a button up because it's still a possibility. We're supposed to have Natalie Turk, who is the Cleveland Guardians beat writer for Sports Illustrated. For Sports Illustrated Cleveland, who I have done family baseball shows with Willie, who was on last month. We were going to talk about our second topic, but I want to go into the first one first because this was we all remember this like it was yesterday. Sunday, June 19th, 2016, Father's Day, and the wish of every father in Cleveland came true as the Cleveland Cavaliers finished engineering the greatest comeback in NBA history.
I didn't even realize that I remember it was Father's Day, but this is the first time it's come back around to where it's exactly the day.
It is exactly the day.
Whoa.
Now, here's my story from that night. Now, my wife does not like sports at all. She deals with them because she loves me, which, again,
you married
greater mysteries in the world. Exactly. But here's the kicker. She sat on our old couch, we got the new one, with me and watched every single second. Now, I do this for fun now, but I hope to do this as a living at some point in time, because if you do what you love, you'd never work a day in your life.
Right.
That clock hit 000, and I did not have words. I didn't. I didn't. I sat there staring at the television with tears in my eyes going, wait, what? It happened?
Right.
And obviously, you who've lived there your whole life lived through a lot longer than I did. But I'm going to pull something up on YouTube. And the reason I'm pulling this up on YouTube real quick, it's something that we didn't get, we don't get to listen to anymore, because unfortunately the person who authored this is no longer with us.
Right.
And I think you know exactly where I'm going.
Oh, absolutely. It's in my favorites. The only thing that I actually would have loved more is if it would have been Joe Tate doing it.
Now, my buddy Vince Costanzo, who graduated with me, was in the queue that night. He flew back from Utah for that. If
play the clip, and then go into. Let's get both of our stories here. Let's actually what you did that night, and then what I did that night.
Here we go.
And of course, there's an ad.
There's an ad.
Everything you create, curate.
I have it memorized. Yes, you saw me.
I saw you doing that.
I have it memorized. The one thing I always regret is that was literally the summer I cut cable, and Fox Sports Ohio was replaying Game 7 for about 4 days afterwards, but they did the ESPN telecast, but they did the Fox Sports dub because Fred and Austin were in the building in Oakland.
They were, and that what you heard, the Fox Sports dub is what you heard inside the queue. And everybody outside heard Fred. And, of course, Fred, who we all sorely miss.
Well, everybody outside heard Fred up until it hit 000, and you couldn't hear a damn thing.
No, you couldn't hear anything. Same thing inside the queue. And it was weird because if you watch the videos from inside the queue, they had cleared it out for the RNC.
Right.
And our buddy Nick Credes, who grew up, of course, with Jason and those boys and graduated with Frank and I, he was working for the moving company that did all that stuff.
Nice.
He's actually their GM now. The old Steve, he is. He's running the show, and he was at the parade a couple days later. But that moment, Mike Breen, of course, with Cleveland as a city of champions once again.
Yep.
John Michael, who's the TV guy now, was a radio guy then. With the Believe It Cleveland, Savor It, Soak It In. The kid from Akron has come home.
Yeah.
That whole thing. I have the season highlight video on Blu-ray sitting over in my collection because I wasn't going to miss that one. So, yeah, I mean, this has been... I can't believe that we are 6 years out from that.
Yeah.
So, as I said, I was sitting home with the wife that night. We watched every second. I casted it from my phone to my Chromecast on my television. Maybe the best defensive play in NBA Finals history.
Kevin. Yep.
I was thinking about the block.
Yeah. And Kevin was up there as well, just because of the way that he D'd up on Steph.
Yes, that's true. Jim, what were you doing that night?
Oh, this is fun. There was a WWE pay-per-view going on that same night. It was Money in the Bank.
Oh,
And
boy.
so what we had is I was over my best friend Adam Royan's house. We were there with our buddy, our former backyard wrestling buddy, Charlie DeLauro. And
wow.
yeah. Oh, by the way, you see how short the lettuce is now? I have a message for you. Guess who cut my hair this morning?
Who cut your hair?
Amy Catalano.
Stop it.
She's been cutting my hair for 30 years. She told
She
me to
knows
tell
my
you
mother.
in its broadcast.
She's friends with my mom. She's the one who does my mom's hair.
That's the message I forwarded along. She's got her own shop right now in the Mason build, or not the Mason building. It's like right across the street from like the Speedway up there by like a block and a half from my old Giant Eagle.
She's been in that building for a while.
Well, actually, no. She's only been in this building for about 3 years.
Why do I think she was on that side of town? Was she working someplace else over there?
She was in the Mason building across from Aleshi's for the longest time and then moved about 3 years ago.
And that's where I know her from because, of course, working at Aleshi's, which, by the way, that day broke my heart. When they closed, that broke my heart.
Although there is, like, the brother or the cousin actually has one. They call it Jim Aleshi's out in Solon. My dad goes there constantly. Same family.
I think it's their cousin.
Yeah. But anyway, Adam, Charlie, and myself, we actually took his TV from the second floor in his bedroom on his house on Delroy, and we brought it downstairs. So we had the pay-per-view on the big screen on the wall, and then we actually had the flat screen on a stand with the game on. And then as the game started to progress, we actually flipped. Then we actually put the wrestling pay-per-view on the small one, and then we put the game on the flat screen. We couldn't believe what was happening. When the clock hit 0, I literally busted through his front door. I thought I broke it. The whole block is screaming. His parents, if you remember, were like 2 houses down from him.
Yes.
That house on Avondale. He actually moved in, I think, to the Orr's old house.
Okay, I know where you're at.
So it's and then his cousin and his aunt lived literally across the street from his folks, and they were all watching the game at our buddy Tommy's, who lived on the corner. I think you remember Tommy from some of the times you probably come over during the years. Tommy grew up with my dad, so they all had the game out on the porch. I'm screaming. The block is screaming. Adam and Charlie, the first thing I did is I called my grandmother. Because Kevin Love's like her favorite guy. She was watching it. Her voice is gone. I'm in tears. I go over to Tommy's, and I'm literally crying my eyes out to Adam's cousin, Stephanie, and really the whole family there, because Adam's parents were like my second parents growing up. And Adam and Charlie then get in the car, and they start driving around South Euclid. They just wanted to go and just see what it was like. So we all finally leave about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And as I'm driving down the street, there are people partying up and down Mayfield Road. Every time I'm coming to a stoplight, guys are leaning into my car, high-fiving me. Girls are leaning into my car, just kissing me. Just basically, it was a party for the entire freaking night. It was euphoria that I've never seen before and will never see again.
No, and we really won't. And if they would have gone back to back, which they would have done had Draymond Green not turned into the biggest little girl in sports and called KD from the parking lot, or if somebody was healthy the year before, I think the way they won it, the comeback, beating who they beat. Listen, we're never. They say the first one's always sweet, and you and I always had that when the Cavs won, because it would be in the summer, it would be a huge party, which is what it was.
Right.
I think they said there was only one police car that was damaged downtown, and it wasn't damaged because people were throwing things at it or anything else. They were dancing on top of it.
Right. Remember, John Cena said at the ESPYs, 1.3 million people and not one good quarterback.
Oh, don't start. We're going at next. Do not jump the shark quite yet. I got funny. He was just on Rich Eisen. I got a funny story for you when we're done.
All right.
So in upstate New York, I've only been a Cavs fan since the day you told me the Knicks got rid of Patrick Ewing.
Right.
Wait, was it you or your brother who were laughing in my face about that?
That was Frankie. I mean, I hated the Knicks, but that was Frankie because Frankie, remember, just loved to actually twist the knife with you a little bit. I didn't get to that point
Yeah,
until
he
we
still
got into
would.
college.
When I was in college, that's when the three of us in the computer lab.
Yeah, that's true. But also remember, I couldn't actually twist the knife with you too much because we had a sports network together.
Blog. So here, I cried. I did too. And I've been a Cavs fan since the days of, here's some names for you, Jim. Bobby Sura, Brevin Knight, Sean Kemp, rookie Zydrunas Ilgauskas. So I've been the jersey that hangs in my closet is Larry Nance Jr. So I'm not a Cavs fan because of LeBron. I am a Cavs fan pre-LeBron, when he was gone, when he came back. Now that he's gone again, doesn't matter.
I go back to when Steve Kerr actually played here, and I watched him with my best friend back in grade school. We drove all the way out to Richfield, and he hit a game winner before they moved the three-point line back. He hit a game-winning two with his foot on the line over Chris Webber in 1989, 1990, something like that. So, yeah, I go back to when he played here.
I remember watching games when I would come out to visit, because we started going to the area in the late 80s. My uncle's been out there since 88. I think the first Thanksgiving we spent out there was 88, because my cousin Katie, who is now the same age as Stephanie, she was an infant. That was the first year we went out there. So the Cavaliers, I knew the Mark Prices and the Larry Nance Seniors and the
Craig Elo, Hot Rod. Actually, I should say in my
Hot Rod Williams,
butchering it, Hot Rod.
Exactly. So I knew those boys, but I grew up a Knicks fan, being up here with my old man. But Patrick Ewing was my guy, and you two, jabbed me with that, and I did the John Gotti. They were dead to me. And I picked up the Cavaliers, and that night was basically almost 20 years of fandom that came to, and everybody out there has had longer. Did you go to the parade?
I did not. I was working, but I watched it. My mother was working in the Federal Building down on 9th when it happened, and they actually started sending people home because of the crowd that developed outside. And she said that it was one of the scariest things that she'd ever seen, just for that mass of humanity. But once she finally got through it, she stepped back. And my mother's not a sports fan. She'll watch the Browns casually. But we talked the following morning, getting ready for, the championship and the parade and everything. She got me like a piece of the star confetti, that I still hang on to and everything. But she actually said once she finally got through the sea of humanity and finally got her way back into Tower City to be able to take the train home, because she takes the RTA every day. It was, she stepped back and she thought about it. It's like, this is cool. This is something we are never going to see again.
No, because the first one is always the sweetest. It's always the one that means the most.
Now, here's the thing. Let's play devil's advocate for 30 seconds. What if Kevin doesn't what if Kelly Olynyk doesn't rip Kevin's arm out of socket? What if Kyrie doesn't get hurt in game one? What if they go on and win that series? Does the 3-1 mean as much if they went back to back?
I don't think it would have gotten to 3-1 if they would have won it the first year. Because I think the biggest thing that happened in that series with Golden State, which, by the way, hats off to them for winning the title the other night.
Yeah.
I got to give credit where credit's due. They finally won a championship that was legit.
Yeah, that's
so.
Yeah.
So I got to give credit where credit's due. They played teams that were healthy, and they won a series without KD. So there's that. I I'm feeling the Ric Flair thing again tonight, just so you know. I don't think it would have gotten to 3-1 the next year, because if you notice, even when it took KD getting there to get the Cavaliers out of Golden State's head, they hadn't lost 3 games in a row in 3 years.
Right.
And they lose 3 in a row in the finals.
Yeah, and they had only lost 3 times at home, and then they lost 2. They lost back-to-back games over a 4-day span.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, too. And I was talking about this with a buddy of mine at work the other day. Let's take a further step back. The Golden State Warriors shouldn't have been in that finals. If Draymond gets suspended when he kicked Steven Adams in the junk, they don't get out of the Western Conference. And we're talking about the first championship in Cleveland history for the Cavaliers being a 4-game sweep of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Let's also go a step further. The year before, they honestly shouldn't have even gotten to the finals because of I can't even remember who it was, but stepped out and Kawhi ruptures his ankle.
That was the same year. That was the same year. That was 16.
Okay, yeah. So had Kawhi not gotten hurt, and had they actually thrown whoever that was out, I think it might have been Iguodala. I'd have to go back and look at it, but it's
it was
Livingston
McGee.
Okay, yeah, but whoever it was, was a key component of their bench. And had they actually not, had Kawhi not gotten hurt and McGee been thrown out of that game for stepping out on purpose like that, we're talking a whole different series. San Antonio goes on and wins that series, and then it's a rematch of 07.
Which I think what the Cavaliers had from top to bottom would have beaten that Spurs team.
Yeah.
They weren't beating the Ginobili, Parker, Duncan, Pop
dynasty,
Spurs in 07. Yeah, that wasn't happening.
Yep.
So the nostalgia was nice. Let's talk about the schmuck now.
I'm going to actually start, I'm going to put a dry erase board back here, and we're just going to start, listing names off for him.
Oh, I see you like the GIF I put on the tweet.
It was very, very nice.
If anyone's asking,
go to my blog. It is now linked to the sidebar on every page of the blog.
That's great. That's absolutely wonderful. So, all right, let's talk about it. And we were going to have Natalie Turk on, as I said, who is the beat writer for Cleveland Sports Illustrated for the Cleveland Guardians. Who, sidebar, I am loving this team.
1 game out.
I am loving this team. As much as it pains me to say this, as much as I want a Subway Series so they can take them out, my boys, I would love to see a 7-game dogfight between the Guardians and the Mets.
That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun.
Shane Bieber and Jacob deGrom in Game 1, anyone?
Jose and Frankie on opposite sides.
Oh, that'd be so bad. They would boo him out of Cleveland. Well, actually, no, I don't think they would, because he was traded.
Yeah, but he wouldn't give the home team discount that Jose took.
That's true. I will give you that. That's true.
I think Cookie would get a standing O.
I think Cookie deserves a standing O wherever he goes. You see what his numbers are this year?
Yeah.
3 pitchers in the National League have 8. Yeah. 3 pitchers in the National League have 8 wins. Cookie's one of them.
But the Guards 1 game out in the AL Central, and they are now tied mathematically for the second wild card spot if the season were to end right now, with the 3rd lowest payroll in baseball and the youngest team in baseball.
Yeah, and the only reason they're the second wild card is because all of a sudden the New York Yankees decided it's 1927 again, and Murderers Row is playing well, and Aaron Judge is just on a different level. Alonso's still better.
I'm going to throw this out there very, very quickly, and then we'll actually get to the schmuck. And when Natalie joins us, I'll actually pose the question to her. Let me throw this out to you as a baseball fan. If the season were to end right now, Jose for AL MVP, Quan for Rookie of the Year, and Tito Francona for Manager of the Year for what he's done with this team. Could you make an argument for all three of those right now?
You could make an argument, but the Rookie of the Year in the American League is not going to be Quan. You can make the argument. I agree with you 100%. I think Tito wins Manager of the Year in a walk. Jose for MVP is tough because Aaron Judge is on pace to hit 61 homers.
Yeah, but he's also doing it with a $270 million payroll, and Jose is doing it with a ton of rookies and second-year guys.
There's also that guy out in L.A.
that we talked about last time who's going to end up missing 30, 40 games on average if we think about it. And also the other guy, the one who pitches and hits. His numbers are down.
Yeah, he had one of those years where he was just unconscious last year.
Right, because he nobody figured him out yet.
I don't think they so much as figured him out, so they're not pitching to him.
Yeah.
The Mets just played 3 games out there. I don't think they pitched through him a strike in 3 games.
You could be right about that, yeah.
So let's talk about the moron. That's 2. Let's keep track. That's 2 different names we've used for Deshaun Watson. There's 3.
3.
So it's coming out that the NFL may be close to suspending him.
Yeah, I texted you that yesterday. That was breaking news.
I'm going to go one step further. I honestly think they're not going to suspend him. I think for this season he's going on that exempt list because they know the NFLPA is going to fight back and try and get his suspension reduced, which is what their job is.
Right.
I think Roger Goodell is going to put him on that commissioner's exempt list. Now, doing that has a ripple effect. Disciplinary action does not come until he's taken off of that list. Remember, he was not disciplined by the Houston Texans. He was benched because he told them he would not play another snap for them and threw a hissy fit. These idiots on Brown's Twitter need to get that through their thick skulls. He was benched last year. He wasn't disciplined.
I cannot wait for Natalie to come on. You're basically reiterating the same argument she's been making for weeks.
And I'll be honest with you. I've been kind of out like this with everything going on. I haven't paid attention to what she said. You have been like the ultimate flow of information from what Nat's saying.
And guys, it's when she gets here, we're gonna try to figure out how to get her, Twitter address up on screen. You need to follow Natalie right now for first of all her Guardians coverage. Secondly, some of her soccer coverage, which although we all know how I feel about soccer, but still. But really, some of the arguments she is making with the Deshaun Watson things, take what Mike and I have been spouting now for the last 2 to 3 months and amplify it and put it on a national stage.
Yeah, and put some credibility behind it because she works for Sports Illustrated, kids.
Yep.
So if they put him on that list, and then they suspend him, all while the Browns are now talking about wanting to build a new stadium.
First of all, where?
He wants a dome.
Yeah,
which I don't disagree with.
I agree, but it's not like how it was back in '96. It's because you had Municipal Stadium, which I'm going to get to here before the end of the show. If you saw my post from earlier today, how I had memories of Municipal Stadium.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah,
is it what I think it is?
We'll double back.
Were you there when Carmelo Martinez hit that home run?
I was there. We'll go into that. We'll go into that towards the end of the show. That was a personal memory.
How bad that I knew who it was?
I was there.
I think Nick was too.
I was there for a 15th birthday party, and I was a lot closer than you ever would have thought. But when they left in '99 and they built the stadium, they had all the ground in the parking lot next door, and then they built the place, and then they ripped the old place down and threw it out in Lake Erie as a reef. They don't have that this time. Where are you going to put it?
They're talking about moving it from the lakefront. Or putting a ton of money into retrofit a retractable dome on First Energy.
Which might be
again,
the more logical theory, though.
More logical theory, but also wouldn't be a bad idea because now you get the NCAA finals here. Where you can put it in the football stadium and attract more people.
Right. You can also do more concerts. You can do, a bunch of stuff in the winter. You've got your monster truck rallies.
Let's talk about that block, and we can have the Rock Hall inductions in Cleveland.
Yes.
That is the one. I don't care where the Cavaliers are. Get out of the building.
Yeah.
Romo Fijo needs to be the home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions.
You either put them in Cleveland or you move the museum. You do one or the other. You got to do both. It's not one or the other. I'm tired of this crap.
I agree with you. Sidebar, my parents found the videotapes of that concert.
The Rock Hall?
At Municipal Stadium, the one where Chuck Berry opened and all of a sudden Springsteen came out and played with him. Yeah. I had people over to watch that. So
back to the schmuck. It's still 3. We haven't gotten to 4 yet.
I know it's 3, but I had another one.
Would it have been safe on this channel?
Let's get back to another sad ending.
God, I hate you sometimes.
No, you don't. You love it. You know it. Anyway, this dude, in all seriousness, as Jim is frozen with the big smile on his face, he'll come back in a second. There you are. So back to the suspension. So if they
screenshot, I hope somebody screenshot that.
I'm kind of mad at myself for not doing it.
We can get it on the back end. The hell with it.
I'll save it somehow, and that'll be my new avatar on Twitter.
Then I'd really hate you.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think he's going to exempt list him, and then the suspension is going to come the next year, which means you will have a $46 million a year quarterback who has done nothing to prove he is elite, have to shake off 3 years of rust to go into year 3 of this contract. It's only a 5-year deal. I move my hand over. 5. You're going to have him 3, 4, and 5. And you're still going to owe him all the money.
Actually, then again, I was going to say it's a good thing you did up here, is because if you did down there, that's copyright infringement.
Wow. I'd almost trust that little kid running this team more than Jimmy Haslam right now.
That little kid's our age now.
That little kid had a baby with the girl from Zach and Cody.
Which I never watched because I didn't have Nickelodeon for a lot of years.
It was Disney, but who's talking?
Whatever.
Kate and Zach were little. Jim, I can't fathom why they haven't acted yet. Even Chris Mad Dog Russo from New York, who I hate. I cannot stomach him. I cannot do it.
I didn't like him when I had XM, but I got to give him props. He actually named Cleveland the best sports market out there earlier this week.
He's not wrong.
Right. And then I actually wish he would have, hit Stephen A. over the head with something when Stephen A. actually said that Pittsburgh should have been on that top 5 list.
Stephen A. needs to be hit over the head without that moment.
That's true, but it would have been justifiable to do it on air.
That's very true. Although he's had a few other takes that have been justifiable to smack him upside his head. My favorite one is when he said Alabama was going to smoke LSU with Joe Burrow. And then Swagoo just sat there like this.
Yep.
He's like,
And 3 hours later was lighting up Cubans.
Exactly. So, hey, did you see he defended Baker?
I did not.
He did. He said, and because they asked him about the Baker Mayfield thing, he goes, "Listen, this situation is very complex. All I know is, dude balled out against us every time."
Yep.
He said, "Week 2, my rookie year, balled out, put up 30 points. This past year, balled out. I get a lead, he goes down and throws a touchdown to end it." He's like, I don't know what anybody else thinking, but Baker balled out against us. We haven't beaten the Browns since I come into the league." And I'm sitting there going, yo, Joe Nasty just gave Baker some props. So now we're seeing that Carolina is going to trade for Baker Mayfield. This looks like where he's going to go. But I want to ask you something else. See, I don't like Cowherd, but I like some of his guests. He had a guy on there this past week. And I got to go into my YouTube list to see who it was. It was Gerald somebody, and I can't remember his name. View all.
McCoy?
Might have been.
I was going to say, because Gerald McCoy, I remember him from his time when he was at Pitt. Pretty good NFL linebacker. It's about the only Gerald ex-NFL player I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it's Gerald McCoy. So basically, he asked him what he thought of the whole Baker situation. And it is Gerald McCoy. And he said, listen, this isn't an indictment on Baker. This is, why are we going to go out and overpay for a guy that the Browns need to make a decision on?
Yeah.
Why are we going to go out and give up a ton of assets and money for a guy the Browns are going to have to cut? And they're going to have to pay, and we can pay him the league minimum.
Right, because everything I'm reading about with the Baker to Carolina thing, they've got the draft picks figured out. The only sticking point right now is how much cap, how much of that salary is going to be split. It's going to be 80-20, 70-30, 60-40, 50-50. Who knows? But it's also something that Carolina needs to consider if they want to extend him, how much, because the Darnold experiment is not going to work out. And they just drafted Matt Corral 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, they drafted Matt Corral, but here's the thing that they bring Baker in. They need pieces. We talked about the guy in LA who's hurt 30% of the year. What's Christian McCaffrey?
Very, very true. And the other aspect about Baker, and somebody brought this up, I don't remember who, but if you're Carolina right now and you've basically been down in the dumps and a very, very below 500, and for lack of a better term, you've been an NFL lottery pick for a number of years here. Baker actually got the Browns back to, right around 500, got him to a playoff. If it wasn't for incompetent head coaching, where they went 6-10 that one year, you think Carolina wouldn't actually want some of the headaches just to be able to get back to respectability in a division that, really outside of Tampa, there's nothing there, and who knows how long Brady's going to be there?
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes to Carolina and has a good season, which we know Baker can have.
Right.
Look,
especially much as people beating up on New Orleans and Atlanta's defense.
Exactly. Now, here's the other thing, too. Remember, Baker's never had an actual number one wide receiver. I don't care what people say about Odell. He didn't care. He wasn't a number one when he got here.
Right. And Jarvis was very good, but Jarvis wasn't a one. Jarvis was a security blanket.
And no disrespect to Jarvis, who was a phenomenal Brown and should still be a Brown.
Right.
But, yeah, Jarvis isn't a number one either. DPJ is far from it. His favorite target, Hollywood Higgins, I think is, you know what? It's so he can throw to guys who can get open. I think Matt Rule's a good coach for him to have because Matt Rule came from the Big 12. He knows what Baker can do.
Well, here's also
put him in the right situation.
Well, here's also the other thing is that Baker's only signed through the end of the year. Matt Rule is going to be coaching for his job no matter what. So you got two guys with their feet and their ass to the fire, and let's see what they can do.
Exactly. So let's spin this. And let me ask you a quick what-if question. Let's say it comes down like we were talking about, that he gets put on the exempt list and then they suspend him. How fast is Jimmy Haslam firing Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski if they go 7-10, 7-10?
I think he's going to have. I think it would be immediate, but the problem is that it wouldn't be Stefanski and Berry's fault because they're not the ones that sold the future of their franchise from everything that we all suspect, because this has got Haslam's name written all over it. So he's basically.
And I said that on Twitter. And I said that on Twitter. I actually said to somebody, explain to me how he's elite.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
You know what it very much reminds me of right now, but in a different aspect, the whole thing that's going on with the WWE and Vince McMahon in the last 36 hours. Yeah.
Roddy Piper told us he was a jerk.
Yeah. You know what's funny, real quick, talking about wrestling, I went back and I watched the first ECW One Night Stand after they from 2005, where it was like, you know, Sabu versus Rhino, and it was Dreamer and Sandman against the Dudleys. And the more I'm thinking about it, it's like they did the tribute. It's like Public Enemy's gone, Crash Holly's gone, Balls Mahoney and Axel Rotten are now gone since that pay-per-view. Mike Awesome's gone. It's Chris Candido's gone. It's like Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero were both gone. It's like half of that card is gone.
Yeah, I know. Now, that Dudley's against Sandman and Dreamer, is that the one where the entire arena was singing Enter Sandman?
Of course, that's extreme karaoke.
Because I got to tell you, my favorite moment from that wasn't them singing; it was the look on Tommy Dreamer's face.
Yeah, because remember, they actually intertwined a little bit of a WWE storyline because Raw and SmackDown were supposedly like coming to kill ECW that night. But it's like I always remember Joe, like right as they were ready to ring the bell, the BWO came out and Joey Styles is laughing so hard that he actually says, "I'm gonna wet my pants."
I remember that.
Yep. Every time I hear Styles laughing like that, it's God, and I can't believe that Joey Styles retired from wrestling altogether about 5 years ago because he got tired of all the politics.
I can't believe that was 17 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Zach graduating.
I got Beulah McGillicuddy on there, even though she actually was married to Dreamer and had 2 kids on that pay-per-view. It's like all was right with the world. Beulah was always my favorite.
Yeah, I was a Trish Stratus guy.
Yeah, it's I don't know if I told this story before, but I went to an ECW show and I bought a Tommy Dreamer shirt, and on this shirt had Dreamer, and Francine's autograph. It had Danny Doring from Pepper Pike and Roadkill, and also a very, very young, fresh out of wrestling school, Lita, who was going by Angelica. And it also had Devon Dudley's blood because the Dudleys fought Balls Mahoney and Spike Dudley in a street fight up and down the Agora. And as Devon is like walking up the aisle, he's wiping his blood on my shirt, wiping his face on my shirt because he can't see. And then Spike Dudley got powerbombed on the bar out in the lobby.
I remember that. I never saw the shirt, but I remember Spike Dudley getting powerbombed through the bar.
Yeah, those were fun. I think I went to that show with Baltitis and Witt.
We have had a Jeff Baltitis reference.
Yes, we have.
All right, the wheels are off. Anyway, the wheels are off. Thank God Natalie's not here.
Yep. Quickly getting them back on.
Yeah. So Is this move going to cost the best coach GM tandem since Ernie Accorsi and Marty Schottenheimer their jobs?
Without question. There's provided they don't win like back-to-back Super Bowls, I think that's the only way that they can salvage this. The PR move alone, not to mention the way that the chemistry is broken up. And who's to say that the NFL doesn't go the route of what Major League Baseball did and threaten to suspend him for 2 years, and then they actually negotiate to get it shortened down to 1? Who doesn't think that might be a possibility? So this way he misses the entire year.
Well, that I think is what's going to end up happening. But I think Roger can still do that by putting him on the exempt list and then suspending him. Because that's what they did to Kareem Hunt.
I so wish that Natalie were here, because she put out a tweet of a worst case scenario a couple of weeks ago that I would love for her to read more than anybody else. Yeah, it wasn't a couple of weeks ago. I think it was back on Monday or Tuesday.
Let me see if I can find the tweet.
It's dated June 15th. It says, "My Carmel wish."
And she's as hardcore Cleveland as anybody else. For anybody who wants to know, it's at Nats_sports chat. She's also the editor for Northeast Ohio Sports Insiders. That's a site that she kept going for somebody. She was talking about it on opening day with Willie and I.
Matt Lodi.
Yup. Yeah, she mentioned she was doing that for Matt. Yeah, she's down in Columbus for the NEOSI, for the Northeast Ohio Sports Insider. She's covering the crew tonight, so that's why she's not with us, obviously. Because I did text her. I'm like, hey, you still good for 8:30?
If we got to push to another week with her, great. We definitely want to be able to, bring her on before training camp, because that's when I think there's going to be some form of decision made on this.
I think so too. And I think I'm going to say this again, and I mentioned it to you a couple weeks ago. This one is going to be impacted by the John Gruden lawsuit. The NFL is going to be in a position of weakness for the first time since the 94 baseball strike.
You might be right on that.
Because the NFL was not the most popular sport in the country until baseball struck in 1994.
Yeah.
And even then, it took Brett Favre and Peyton Manning and Brady Nolan to bring football and make it the number one. Well, that and internet gambling. But it took them to do that. Are they going to let this dumb punk ruin this?
Absolutely not.
I don't care. I'm a baseball guy. It's my time of year. I had the Mets Big Rican shirt on all day. But he could bring this, between him and Gruden, they could bring it, and, well, Dan Snyder, that's another story. Holy cow.
Oh.
When Pat McAfee is calling for your suspension, when Tiki Barber, who, by the way, is a really good show in New York on WFAN, check it out on Odyssey, which is how I listen to the Mets in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Tiki wants him gone. Tiki, I left my wife who was sick for a chick to have twins. Barber wants him gone.
Now, is that also tied to the Jack Del Rio thing?
No, Jack Del Rio is just
or is that a separate thing?
That's a separate thing.
Still within the same organization, and that actually tells you
everything. They're all stupid.
Yeah.
They traded for Carson Wentz.
Right. Which is funny is because Taylor Heineke is a better quarterback but won't start is because he's being paid $18 million less.
Exactly. You know what the real nightmare scenario for the Browns is?
Did you find her tweet?
I didn't find her tweet. I'm going to give you my own version. Baker goes to Carolina, gets Carolina to 500, gets them to 9-8 after they were terrible the year before. And then his buddy from the NFL commercial goes, "Hey, old man wants out. You want a ready-made winner?"
That's not bad.
Not for Baker.
That's not the only thing the worst thing about,
because here's the view I had.
And it appears Mike might have frozen up on us for a second. He's on his way back. It looks like. The one thing I actually am saddened most of about, Baker eventually leaving town is, number
So
one,
Jim is spinning Ryan.
We had a franchise quarterback and then actually shot ourselves in the
foot,
but now we don't have progressive commercials anymore. Might be having another issue here. Give me 1 minute. Now it actually looks like it flipped to me. Popped out here, so he'll be on his way back in just a second. Not exactly sure what's going on here. It's because we're not actually having inclement weather in this part of the country. But yeah, I'm very upset that we're not going to get, some of those really, really good at home with Baker Mayfield commercials with Progressive anymore, which ironically enough, their world headquarters is about 2.5 miles from my apartment. But this is an absolute travesty what's going on with the Cleveland Browns right now. And quite honestly, as a Clevelander, the fact that they're doing this to my hometown team is atrocious. But yet, on the other hand, you reap what you sow. And they wanted to go out and win for now, regardless of what the scenario was. And they've got nobody to blame for themselves with the fact that this is slowly but surely blowing up in their face like every other Cleveland season that's filled with so much promise, and then the bottom drops out. The only problem is that now it's happening right before it's happening before training camp even begins. And I'm going to wait for Mike to come back and bring up another point here